Dave Yost's quest for governor ends. Welcome to Columbus on the Record. I'm Mike Thompson. For now, Vivek Ramaswamy's path to the Republican nomination for governor seems clear. Attorney General Dave Yost has suspended his campaign for governor. In a Friday afternoon statement, Yost said his steep climb to the nomination has become a vertical cliff, and now is not the time for a family squabble. Yost has trailed Ramaswamy badly in the few public polls released this spring. Last week, the state Republican leaders overwhelmingly endorsed Ramaswamy over Yost. So that leaves only long-shot candidate Heather Hill and the perhaps possibility of Lieutenant Governor Jim Tressel running for governor, standing in Ramaswamy's way. Laura Bischoff, this is just a sign of the Ohio Republican Party where if you wait your turn, take the long path to higher office, it doesn't work out that way anymore.
Yeah, I mean, Dave Yost is definitely, his career has been the traditional path, 11 years in statewide office as auditor and attorney general, plus his time as county prosecutor. He used all those building blocks to move toward running for governor. And then, Vivek Ramaswamy comes in and he's going the new traditional path, which is never hold a public office. Come out of nowhere and just have a big pile of money in your bank account.
Yeah. And no Donald Trump.
Jake, it's still early. We were a year out from the primary, a year and a half from the general election. Why not wait a little longer?
The writing must be on the wall. I mean, he must have information. And plus, every time you call a donor and you say, I want you to support my campaign and give me money, they're going to say, well, are you actually going to win this thing? And the more data that can stack up against that fact, the harder that check gets to write.
Mike, would a family squabble be bad for the Republican Party? Would it hurt them in a general election? Or could a family squabble be good in a way?
Oh, I don't think it would be particularly bad. I don't think it'd be good either. It's probably, a push and shove breakout. I'm a little surprised at Yost doing it this early. I mean, a year and a half is a long time. And as volatile as he can be, who knows whether Trump's going to have the support in Ohio a year and a half from now as he does now. If the election were today or next week or next month, I would agree with him. But I would have waited a little longer if I were him.
He was pretty honest in his statement, Sam. He basically said, I can't win right now. So to keep fighting is just pointless.
I don't agree with Mike, though. It's like a lifetime between now and November of the election. So I wouldn't have gotten out. And I know David, and I know that was a hard decision for him. He's always wanted to be governor ever since I've known him, since the Moody administration, Tom Moody mayor, city of Columbus. So I know that was a hard decision for him and his family. But I think he may have made a mistake. Ramaswamy, and I have a difficulty with his name, between now and then could trip over the world and destroy himself because he's that type of candidate.
But he's also a very dynamic candidate, Laura. I mean, he's terrific on the stump, and it's that new generation. It seems to be exciting the Republican Party in this state. Ramaswamy is. He's
very confident, and he's he's everywhere. I mean, he's like the Roy Kent of Ohio GOP politics. He's everywhere. He's going to all these county chicken dinners, and the keynote speaker here, keynote speaker there. But I think Sam's right. I think he's a little bit of a wild card, and he could stumble. And if he does so, I think Jim Tressel might have a chance to just kind of pounce in there.
Mike, if you do the math, in the last poll, Yost was at like 14%, Tressel was at like 14%. Well, that's close to 30. That gap shrinks a little bit if all of Yost's folks go to Tressel. So,
well, 30% is still 70% short of 100.
Yes, it is.
I mean, assuming that the other candidate's got 70%, that doesn't make a heck of a lot of difference.
Yeah. Do you think he has a deal, Jake? Any word that, because I know that there's been rumors that Yost was up for other appointments from the Trump administration, or there was a report that he was offered an ambassadorship in Cyprus. Do you think would he ever consider lieutenant governor with Ramaswamy? Or is he beyond that?
I don't know. The thing that really stuck out to me about his statement at the end, he said something to the effect of, "I'm just not that important." I read that as a pretty resigned statement. I mean, we talked about the ladder he tried to climb, and this was supposed to be the pinnacle of the career, and he must see it slipping through him. And that's, I mean, when have you ever heard a politician say, "I am not that important"?
Well, I think he was saying that his ego was not that important considering the service of being governor. And he also, Laura, mentioned that the risk of having Sherrod Brown back in office. That's what Yost talked about.
Right. He wants party unity so that the Republicans can continue their control of government and their policies, et cetera.
Speaking of Democrats, Tim Ryan told Ohio Public Television this week that he will make a decision by the summer, or sometimes this summer, whether or not to run for governor. Sam Gresham, what do you think of that? He said at first he wasn't interested in the job, then he said he was considering it. Now he's going to make a decision this summer. Tim Ryan for governor.
That'd be a heck of a race, you know, that between those two. Wrong man, wrong time. Great person, like him as an individual, wrong person. I think we're looking at the wrong end of the spectrum. We constantly look at candidates. I think we about spend more time looking at the voters and what the voters are concerned with. Democrats always come up with the excuse, messaging. No. You got the wrong message, but you're saying it the wrong way. This electorate, and as the generations come on, is vastly different than my father's electorate, and vastly different than mine.
Amy Acton is running for governor. She's right now the only declared Democrat. Jake, would she run against Tim Ryan? Would they run against each other, do you think?
I don't know. It's hard to predict the future, but what I can say is Tim Ryan feels like more of the past. You know, he's a very insider. He's spent a lot of decades, years in Congress. And he's one of these guys like your Joe Manchin, Sherrod Brown, John Tester, these I'm a Democrat, I can win in a red state. And it feels like an era that has passed, and they keep losing. So it's not clear to me why the Democrats think next time will be better with these same people.
Well, Mike, he would be a contrast to Ramaswamy, a very wealthy man. Tim Ryan has his working class roots from the Youngstown area. That would be how he would run his campaign.
Well, of course, he's run statewide before, and he's relatively young. I think 52, something like
51.
that. 51. Yeah. So he's been in politics his whole life. He's obviously bright. I thought he ran a good campaign last time against the vice president. He happened to lose it, but I thought he ran a very good campaign. I think he's probably taking his time to see what Sherrod Brown's going to do. I don't know whether Sherrod's going to run for Senate, for governor, or anything. Yeah. But I think the last thing in the world Ryan would want to do is get in a primary with Sherrod Brown for the Democrat nomination. Lord, so I think he'll sit for a while.
Laura, do you think this is kind of like to Sherrod Brown, a little signal, hey, look, I'm going to try to make a decision this summer. Can you make it before him, please?
I think that there's a break in the Ohio Democratic Party because Tim Ryan is backing Bill DeMora for chair, and Sherrod Brown is backing Kathleen Clyde. And I think that there's two camps, and they're kind of fighting over really what's crumbs. The Ohio Democrats don't hold. I mean, Jennifer Brunner is the only statewide Democratic candidate or office holder entirely. So anyway, they're fighting over the little bit that they do have, and I think there's a divide there.
Yeah. All right. Our next topic: if we own a home, we love it when we see its market value rise, except when the county reappraises it and increases our property taxes. The recent rapid rise in property values has caused a rapid rise in property taxes that has led to a backlash. Lawmakers have proposed modest things to try to limit increases or even refund portions of property taxes. Republican candidate for governor Ramaswamy has suggested bringing property taxes down to zero, and now voters could have a chance to eliminate them. A group supporting ending property taxes is trying to get the measure on the ballot for next year. It can begin collecting signatures. Jake Zuckerman, this group, do they have money? Do they have the resources? It takes a lot of money and resources and organization to get on the ballot. Is this group legit? Do they have the wherewithal?
Well, it takes a lot of money, but for most issues, I don't think people are so galvanized like they are right now. I mean, every homeowner is feeling this property tax increase. So I don't want to get stuck in the traditional rule of you need about $10 million to get a campaign on the ballot. But to me, the most interesting thing politically is if they do manage to do this, then you're going to have a political establishment, a mostly Republican political establishment, coming forward and saying, please don't do this. Like, this state might not be able to operate and they're not advocating a tax increase per se, but they'd be advocating against a tax decrease. And that's just a very unusual kind of politics we haven't really seen.
If you eliminate taxes on the ballot, who wins?
The dog has caught the car. The dog has caught the car now. Now what do we want to do? Since the 80s.
I mean, taxes are very unpopular. I mean, just look at all the politicians who love a tax cut. If this thing makes the ballot, there's a good chance it'll pass, and then it'll be a giant mess. But I think it's an example of issues where the legislature, when they ignore them, and then it goes to the ballot, it passes, like minimum wage, casino gambling, indoor smoking ban, all of these big policy questions that the Republicans are resistant to, they get on the ballot and they pass. And I think that this puts pressure on the lawmakers to come up with a heavy lift fix for property taxes, property tax relief, which is asking a lot because they're more focused on culture wars than on the boring guts of governing.
Mike, I think, again, going back to my initial thesis, we better start looking at the voter. I don't think the voter is knowledgeable of the history of this country, and they damn sure don't understand the government structure and how it works. We understand it because we've been studying it, but we also like it. If you're disinterested, there are people I ask, who's the governor of the state of Ohio? They don't even know.
Well, Ohio does limit property taxes to 1% of a property's value, but it can be overridden. It can be voters are being asked to approve levies. So the limit is 1% unless voters approve it. So should we blame voters for part of this, Mike, because they passed levies for schools, for fire and libraries and things like that?
Well, I think if the voters weren't unhappy, we probably wouldn't have this problem to begin with. But Mike, to me, we all know what the property taxes do so far as school, libraries, police, and so forth. Those are all, I think everybody would agree, absolutely necessary. Now, if you throw out the property tax, they got to get that money from somewhere. So to me, it's almost like a shell game. You win this one, you put it over here, because the state has to have that money for those services.
So are property taxes the best way to fund those services?
No. And Mike is right. It has been a shell game. It starts with the state when it reduces its allocation to local school systems. By reducing that money, we got this domino that requires them to have the levy. And it seems like every politician that goes to Columbus wants to reduce taxes. The biggest tax now that we have to run government is sales tax. It should have been income tax, but we don't ask everybody proportionally to pay their income tax.
Jake, is there any scenario where they would have to make up these property income taxes, city income taxes, county income taxes?
Well, just going off some data from the LSE, Ohio collects about $19 billion in property tax revenue. For comparison, we get $15 billion in sales tax, $13 billion in income tax. So where are you going to find that? I mean, we've been around it at this table, but what are you going to do, double the income tax? I mean, you'd get people that have pitchforks in the street.
The Tax Foundation, they say that the Tax Foundation says Ohio ranks 6th highest, so it's pretty good when it comes to property tax burden. We don't do well in other areas, corporate tax or sales tax, as Sam mentioned. But according to this conservative group, Ohio's not that bad on property taxes. But it's just the sudden increase in value that's pushed the pressure on lawmakers.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't really like my tax bill.
Yeah, but you have to look at it a different way. Now, I have a bias. I used to work for the treasurer of Franklin County, so I'll acknowledge that going in. Taxes are investment, and taxes are investment in the future. And I know people don't see it like that. But if you didn't have that money and you want me to fix that pothole, how does that happen? How do I get new libraries? How do I get all this fancy-dancy stuff Wi-Fi you want? It's actually an investment in the community. The problem is started out with, taking my money and not as an investment.
So predictions, does this get on the ballot? We don't know yet. They got the get 400 and some odd thousand. You usually have to get double that. So you need 800,000 signatures.
I think the system is built so that things don't get on the ballot. It's very hard to collect 400,000. You need 400,000 good signatures, so you probably need like 600,000 signatures. You need to be in 44 counties. It's more likely than not that this doesn't make the ballot, but I think that if it does make the ballot, it is very, very likely that it passes.
All right. The debate continues over how much control federal and state governments should have over education. The Trump administration is moving to dismantle the U.S. Department of Education. Here in Ohio, Governor DeWine assumed greater control when the legislature formed the Department of Education and Workforce. Now a provision in the proposed state budget would eliminate all of the elected members of the Ohio School Board. The measure would reduce the number of state school board members from 19 to 5. All of them would be appointed by the governor. Sam Gresham, do we need a state school board?
Obviously, the governor doesn't think so, nor does the General Assembly. I think we do. And I think it needs to be an independent board that only gets its budget and not its direction from state government. This whole question of education is dripping with several things. You got the cultural issues, you got the left-right issues, you got the race issues, you got the future issues. You just got so many things involved in it. You need an independent group separate from politics in our community to make those decisions. And it's probably one of the most critical decisions that we make about our country.
Mike, should the federal government and state government have much of a say in education? It shouldn't be to the local school board, the local superintendents.
Well, I don't know how popular that's been in the recent years. The studies I've seen are not very good, but I don't see whether the federal government should have anything to do with it. I think it should be state by state, and if you want to break that up and make it city, county, however you want to, that's fine, but I don't think the United States government has any business in it.
So the state provides, funding for education, but also provides the report cards and gives it sort of a benchmark for how districts are doing. Jake, that's important.
I think that is important, and that's something the U.S. Department of Education does really well, is gather data and give parents an ability to say, how's my kid's school doing compared to national averages or other state averages? So losing those kinds of things, I think, are real. I think data in government is good. I don't think that's controversial.
The state,
Excuse me, another thing I'll say about the Department of Education is save black communities with regards to segregation. Without the Department of Education on a national level, we would have never integrated the schools in this country. And we're still struggling with that.
The elected Board of Education, I had to look up who my Board of Education representative was. I actually had to find out what district I was in. I mean, you see them on the ballot, but nobody knows who they are, Laura. I mean, how much of an impact do they have? Do voters care about this?
It is kind of like a weird hidden board, even though it's in plain sight, because most people don't follow it. It's been at times controversial based on what kind of policies it pursues. But this is a long-standing conflict. Like the governor of Ohio, whoever it is, Democrat, Republican, going back decades, has wanted more control over K-12 policy in the state. And so diminishing the State Board of Education is a big policy goal of governors.
We have more than 600 school districts in Ohio. I mean, that's a lot of superintendents, a lot of chief financial officers, a lot of school boards, Mike. How about some consolidation there?
Well, I think that's very possible. Maybe you could consolidate them in counties. We only have 88, something like that, to be a little more manageable. But yeah, 600's a lot.
I think it's down. It was close to 700 or 800. This is according to the State Department of Education and Workforce. 611 is the latest
Still
number.
missing the cultural aspects of education. Football.
They don't want to give up their football team. All right, speaking of sports and gambling, 15 years ago, the only way you could place a bet in Ohio was through an illegal bookie. Then voters approved 4 casinos around the state, and the state allowed video slot machines at horse race tracks. Then Ohio lawmakers legalized sports betting in Ohio. Last year, Ohioans bet nearly $9 billion on sports, most of that on our phones. Now, a new proposal at the State House would allow Ohioans to gamble on casino games on their phones and computers. Supporters say it'll generate a lot of money. The 4 casinos worry about a loss of revenue, and health and personal finance advocates worry about increased problem gambling. Mike Miller, when you hear those revenue numbers, is there any other gambling money out there? Is there any room for poker on your phone or blackjack on your phone?
Yeah, I think there must be, Mike, or they wouldn't be doing it. And I think other states have made a lot of money on this thing. I think it's bad for a lot of reasons. The people that just waste their money, and they're usually the ones that need it. And it just goes down. But all these things pass. Money does everything. But on the good side of this, maybe we'll get enough money to pay everybody's property tax.
That's on my list. What do we do with the money? Schools or property taxes? I mean, you're an old prosecutor. Did you ever prosecute gambling halls back in the day, or was it even still sort of in the shadows?
We had
still?
very little. We would have guys with the numbers saying, police didn't pay attention to them. Yeah. And the one I remember when I was an assistant down there, we got this man, I don't remember his name, and the papers were running, numbers, and this guy was arrested and charged. He'd been charged like 45 times. And, the numbers people just sent him down. He volunteered, I'll get it. And he gets a conviction and papers quit complaining about it. But in reality, no.
Well, the numbers guys were put out of business by the lottery.
Exactly.
So, go ahead, Sam.
Mike, I was at a party recently of old heads, not young people. People sitting around the table with their phones on, betting on the game we're watching. And I'm going, and they're not betting on the score, who wins, that they're going to hit this shot, or somebody's going to score the most points. And I'm saying, we've taken this thing to an absurd level.
But it's
Sports not so bad. They'll bet on anything.
Yeah, but
absolutely.
it's entertainment for them. They're not. No one's forcing them to bet. Now, the addiction problem can be a real problem, of course. But but this is entertainment. So why not get some money out of it?
I think the easier you make it, the more likely it is people will get hooked. The ones who have problems, and I think, as Mike said, it's the people who have the least amount of money to blow that are gambling the most.
Jake, lawmakers, they resisted these casinos forever. It wasn't until voters approved the amendment that got them here. They really dragged their feet. They could have had more control. Same with, the sports betting they did, but they had more control. But now they're even questioning whether the tax rate is too low. Are they just going to allow these games? And because the horse is already long gone from the barn.
Yeah, if you justify gambling on sports, I think it's hard to make a philosophical distinction to say, well, we think it's acceptable that you bet on sports, but poker's bad. Logically, it's a tough case, and this isn't happening in a vacuum. And it's no coincidence that this is happening when there's a state budget in play, when the Browns want a $600 million stadium, when everyone's mad about their property tax bills. Senate President Rob McCauley threw out the number hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. Take it with salt. We haven't really scored it yet, but there is a lot of money on the table here, and in all likelihood, once Ohio starts budgeting around this money and getting very dependent on this revenue stream, like what happened with the lottery, now the lottery funds about $1.5 billion each year for schools. It's hard to imagine that we get rid of the lottery.
There was a day when cigarettes were ubiquitous. A lot of people smoked. But eventually, we never banned cigarettes, except in restaurants and public places. But we taxed it and taxed it and taxed it. Now smoking is out of favor. Mike, do you ever see a point where gambling, maybe not banned, but falls out of favor? This is a fad, perhaps?
Well, I don't think it's a fad, Mike. You've had gambling, as far as I know, since you've had civilization. It just it seems to be inherent in any of us. Some are more chancy than others, but no, I don't think it'll ever pass. Certainly not in my lifetime or anybody at this table's lifetime.
If I could point something out, in that bill, there is a 10% tax cut for sports betting. So this isn't just totally a revenue gainer. It is actually, once again, reducing the gross tax rate.
Well, that seems to be a poison pill because they want to double the tax on sports to pay for the Browns, right?
Well, some of them do.
Yes.
Not all of them.
Well, that's reducing taxes on sports betting. What is the tax on sports betting now? It's
20%.
20%. So it reduces it to 10.
Which was the original tax rate before we doubled it to 20% about
So that's
6
a
months
big
into
gainer,
the program.
Right? We got this big gainer. What we used to have.
What are the odds on them increasing? Anyway, that's gambling. We'll get to our final off-the-record parting shots right now. Mike Miller, you're up first.
Well, I saw that it looks like Justice Fischer is going to run in 2026 for Chief Justice against Chief Justice Brunner. People say it's the Republicans trying to get rid of a Democrat. It hasn't had anything to do with that at all. Yeah. He wants to be a judge. If he's probably 69 now. By the time his term ends in 28, he's 72. He can't run again. If he runs the next year and wins, he's got 6 more years on top of that. I've seen it done a number of times in the courthouses, and I think that's what all this is.
Yeah, Chief Justice Brunner is just justice because she would have loved him in Chief Justice, but she,
I'm
she
sorry.
didn't,
I'm
she didn't
sorry.
make
Yeah,
that
you're
one.
right. You're
Anyway,
right.
Sam.
I think we finally need to look at the person I started with this discussion, our voters. I don't think we understand our voters. And I think Ohio is a perfect case study to go through and look at our voters, their rationale, and their projections for the future.
Jake.
Speaking of Dave Yost, Franklin County Judge Chris Brown accused him of turning an immigrant to the U.S. who's lived here for 30 years as a political prop. This is in his prosecution for illegal voting. He said the timing of the case was, quote, fishy.
Laura.
I'd like to say congratulations to our colleague Julie Carr-Smythe at the Associated Press. She and her team were named finalists for the Pulitzer Prize in breaking news for coverage of the Trump assassination attempt. It was a very chaotic and scary time, but she was there to provide a truthful and accurate and timely account of a historic event.
Indeed. There's a proposal to force networks to not have noon games for the Buckeyes. They want to fine them. It reminds me of when I was a kid, and the then Schaefer Stadium, home of the Patriots, banned, town of Foxborough, where the stadium is, banned the Patriots from playing on Monday night for 15 years because the fans were too rowdy. Apparently they want to ban noon games at Ohio Stadium because the fans are too mellow. So good luck to them. That is Columbus on the Record for this week. Continue the conversation on Facebook and watch us anytime at our website, wosu.org/COTR. Also YouTube and the PBS app. For our crew and panel, I'm Mike Thompson. Have a good week.